You know how you and your best friend think alike? Well, way back when, we used to do this thing called live-action role-playing at this place called Nero. And we were told to play zombies as bad guys. And they told us they have a very specific way of talking. Their zombies go A-E-I-O-U. So, the way they described this was, just say the vowels of the alphabet slowly. U. And if you're all doing this in a horde, it all jams together. From completely on our own, both of us, in the middle of a battle, did the same exact thing. A-I-O-U, and sometimes Y. Needless to say, that caught on and became how the zombies talk in that show, or in that game. And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell. I'm Rob the host, and this is another look deep into what makes a story, a theory on storytelling by a storyteller who believes that every story has merit. And tonight's episode is George Romero, the father of modern-day zombies. But it might surprise you where he got his start. Because do you know who this man is? Well, it says it on the screen, so of course you do, even if you didn't. This is Mr. Rogers. And Ramero got his start by giving him a tonsillectomy. As we take this walk through the heart of the stories we tell, we're going to get to the heart of zombies by going back to who started the modern zombie craze. And, respectfully, George Romero just passed away, so I'm hoping that this will count as a tribute to him. The man reinvigorated the horror genre by creating what is for all intents and purposes a rather new monster. You see, we had things like it before. We had ghouls, we had vampires, but zombie had a very different meaning before he created what we now take for granted as the zombie. Once a long time ago, he was asked what gave him his best inspiration, and he said the movie Tales of Hoffman was the one that shook expectations. In fact, the exact quote is pretty amazing. But every creator's a little different. And from this man who was going to reinvigorate the horror genre and is a pioneer in it, it all started with this, what I would consider silly movie. And that's pretty important because of course we're going to have to touch on Romero's biggest contribution, the Nights of the Living Dead movies. Even the one that he wasn't involved in still has his fingers on it. For all intents and purposes, though, this is his opus. This is his masterpiece. The dead won't stay dead. The Night of the Living Dead, The Dawn of the Dead, and then Day of the Dead form a trilogy of movies that anyone who appreciates zombies is going to love. But let's be fair. For all intents and purposes, it could have been The Walking Dead, because hundreds of these movies have popped up over the years, and they've all used his base analogy, his idea that the zombie is the endless horde, the creatures that just come and come and come, and they will eat your flesh, or, well, your brains, and the idea of them being cannibalistic monsters that can't be stopped. And you know what the scariest part is? That little girl down the street you pass every once in a while and you think is a cute little kid and you hope grows up to be something cool. That hot woman that you kind of want to flirt with but can't because you're afraid. That dude who's your best friend, your father, your mother, your own children. They can all be this monster. Because anyone who died could be a zombie. Hell, in the most modern version of zombie stories, we're all the zombies staring at our phones, right? But this isn't a tribute to zombies, it is a tribute to Romero. And how many other things can you name that he did? Like I said at the beginning of this, he started by being a writer on an episode of Mr. Rogers, where Mr. Rogers gets a tonsillectomy. And I want you to think about that. Nothing could be less horrific than Mr. Rogers. It's probably the safest, most down-home thing. And that's where I'm going to go with this, because by the time we get to the end of this, I want to talk to you about my personal favorite Romero story. And it doesn't have zombies or horror at all. Well, I guess kind of horror. He has touched on a few different movies over the years. And did you know that he also had a place in comics? Very specifically, he's worked for both Marvel and DC on their horror genre comics. Now, Toe Tags is the DC one, and Empire of the Dead is the Marvel one, but both very clearly have Romero's name all over it. Because if you're buying a horror comic, you want to buy not just any horror comic, but the horror comic by the master. Both of them are collected in trade paperbacks, and both of them are at least interesting, if not beautiful, reads. And of course, that's a testament to how well he can write. But movies and comics are both visual mediums. I want to talk to you about one that's not so visual. So spoiler alert, because I want to talk to, well, what am I talking about? 25-year-old, 30-year-old movie? I think the movie came out before I was born. It's called Always Vanilla. Although I have also been heard to have it referred to as The Affair, and that's not quite exactly what's going on. So, I guess spoiler alert for those two movies that are the same movie. There's Always Vanilla has a strong theme of, do you do what's expected of you, or do you do what you want to do? It's got a character who's gone through a ton, well, it's got a bunch of characters that's gone through a ton of shit. But the main character is just coming out of the military and has been living a pretty wanderlust life. And his father's trying to convince him to settle down and just be normal. Quotations if you didn't hear it in the voice. And of course that's what it is. You can always choose to live the vanilla lifestyle. It's a pretty good ice cream analogy if you ask me. The theme is life is like ice cream. There's 1,000 different flavors, but sometimes it's okay to come back to vanilla. Vanilla's the plain, the ordinary, the regular life. And I kind of like that as a theme. The idea that sometimes, instead of wandering looking for your happiness is what you're missing by going out and looking for it. However, I bring up this rarely watched movie to remind you, George Romero is a great writer, a great creator, someone who came up with concepts, and who knew how to thread a story perfectly. Although he is the man that created the zombie, he's the man that scared you and made you want to laugh and made you want to cry, he also had a deeper side. And maybe that's what I really want to explore in the heart of the stories we tell. That great creator just passed away of cancer this month, so I'm going to ask you to take a moment and listen to this that I recorded for my Nikon video. Even if it means clicking off my video, I'd like you to go all take a quick look at this book. It's available on Amazon. There'll be a link in the description. Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep is a horror writer's anthology for the best of causes to help fight cancer in children. If you're still here, though, I would love for you to like and share this video so that we can help build the community. Of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and activate the alerts bell, because I'm trying to build a community of all of the people that can look into the heart of the stories we tell. Have a good night, and thanks for watching.